Hello and welcome to Tutorial Tuesday. This is part 2. We're going to make some fondant flowers and you are with Amy from Seriously Sweet and Cookie Snack Attack. Thank you guys for joining me tonight. Please make sure you drop a comment so that I can see you in the live stream. And Miss Pamela, I know you're here, and I saw you say a hello everybody comment, but I just now see this comment, so I'm not really sure if comments are now not showing because there was a StreamYard update. I'm not sure if comments are not showing until the live starts. So if anybody else posted a comment, please retype it because I don't want to miss saying hello to you. But hello, Miss Pamela, and I'm so excited about Saturday's class too. Hi, Allison. How are you? Hi, Kathy. It's good to see you all this evening. So real quick housekeeping. I'm going to jump right in and make some really pretty flowers tonight. And we don't have to make a ton of them, you guys. I just want to show you some techniques. I mean, I'll continue to make them as long as you want to see them. But I think this is just a fun, something fun for you to learn about. And if Lori's here, Lori, please comment because you had some questions this morning, but they didn't show up until after we ended the live stream. So just let me know you're here. And if someone else sees Lori pop on, tell her to type her name in so that we can address the questions from this morning. Now, it's not too late, you guys. We have a class this weekend on Saturday, July 9th from 4 to 7 p.m. Excuse me, sunny summer days. And we're going to be doing these very bright cookies. I'm so excited about it. So make sure you sign up for that on our website, Seriously Sweet Cupcakes with an S on the end.com if you want to get in on that class. And then there are 3 seats left in the Just Chillin' online cookie decorating retreat that I'm doing at the end of July. It's July 26th, 27th, 28th. So it's a Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Replays are available. It's going to be so much fun and all kinds of things that I've never taught you guys in a regular class before. So super excited for you to learn these fun techniques, because it's not just techniques that you can use for feature cookies, but also for cupcake toppers and for cake decorations. So lots of applications. And I think when you're spending more money on something like this, you need to be able to use it in more places than just one. So we're just hoping to get you thinking outside the box a little bit. All right, so let's get back to what we're doing tonight, which is some fun flowers. We're going to say hello to a few people first. Let's see, we saw Allison and Pamela are here. Kathy, hey, Kat, how are you doing? Patty is here. Robin, hello. How are you this evening? Hey, Sally, how are you doing today? Now, if somebody could help tonight over in the comments, maybe in a few minutes when there's a few more people on, if you could drop a little note over there for people to and just let us know where they're watching from. What state, what country, wherever you're watching from. Hey, Karen, how are you? I just saw your comment pop up. All right, so for tonight, I'm just going to put down a little parchment over my work area because I'm going to be working with fondant and I'm going to need to roll that out. All right, and then earlier today in part 1, hey, Roxanne, how are you tonight? Earlier today, I suggested 3 shades or 3 colors of pink. You can use any color you want to practice with. It's fine. I probably am not going to save a lot of these flowers. I'm not working on a particular project right now that I need these for. Let me take that back. I've been working on a project that I've used these colors for, but this particular flower we're doing tonight is not something I'm going to be using. So you might see me like crushing mine and putting them back into the fondant balls again, but I think that's going to be fine. Hey, Susan, how are you this evening? It's good to see you. So also, if you've ordered kits from me before, in one of your kits, you got this 2-piece fondant sponge mat. It's a thicker pink piece and it had a thin white piece. This is my favorite one because I like to work with the metal fondant balls, so it's a little heavier. And I find, for me personally, and this is nothing about the product, either one is perfect. But me personally, I'm a little heavy-handed on my flowers, so I have a lot of issues with this hand, and I couldn't ever really get it under control to where I wasn't putting too much pressure if I used the firm foam fondant mats like Wilton puts out. So I found these other mats for us. You can use whichever one that you want to use. Hey, Miss Barbie, how are you doing this evening? You can use whichever one. Either one will work. Just for me personally, I found because I identified that I'm heavy-handed when I'm doing my outer edge leaves and things, that I needed something softer that would give way more. If you've got a very light touch, you're probably going to want to use the more firm foam mat. Hope that makes sense. Sometimes these things sound great to me when I'm explaining them, but maybe they're not coming across perfectly to you. But the intention would be that they would balance each other. So someone that does a really light touch with their fondant tools might need something firmer underneath it, whereas someone that's more heavy-handed with the fondant tool part needs something lighter to give way more. And so mine is just covered with press and seal loosely so that the press and seal won't break. And we're just going to do these basic flower shapes tonight. It's this is one of the sets. Hello, Miss Tiffy. How are you? I haven't seen you in forever. Hug all those kids for me. We're going to use this very basic floral set tonight to create our cutouts. We're going to do multiple colors, and then we're going to mix those colors as well. So we're going to start with this tonight. You don't have to, this is one of those things when you start working on it, playing with it, you don't have to have all of the things right away, okay? But these are some handy things that will help you that you can pick up at Michael's and Hobby Lobby. So there's two sizes, and these are flower or flower petal forming cups. Okay. Hey, Lavelle, you are showing up. Hi, it is showing tonight. How are you doing? Yes, we're doing well, Miss Tiffy. Okay, so we're going to start. I have these, so I'll probably use one or two of these tonight, but you don't have to have these. So before we get going, I'm going to show you something so easy that you can just grab out of your kitchen. Most people will have aluminum foil in their kitchen. So just grab a roll of your aluminum foil. Tear off a little section. This is maybe 8 inches wide. Just rip it in half. These don't have to be particular. Fold it until you get a nice little square, right? Something substantial. Put it in the palm of your hand. Okay. And just use your fingers to kind of push it down. All right. And then what you can do is just get to the edge of your hand and start to bend those outside edges over your fingers, just so it'll stand up. Then you can come back and work it in depending on what size flowers. Now, a little trick, you know, all products improve over time, or at least the makers of them hope that they are. And this is non-stick aluminum foil, which is great because you can leave your fondant bits in this overnight and it's going to peel right out the next morning. So just make yourself a little cup, something that will stand flat, right, on your workspace. If you have one or two of these, but you need a bunch more, you're going to make a lot of flowers, then just take your foil and fit it into your cup, fold it over your cup and get the shape so that all your shapes will stay the same. Like if you're going to make a whole bunch of a large flower and you want to use this, then you can just pre-make a bunch of these aluminum foil cups so they're all the same size, right? That's more for like cake though than cookie. Cookie can be really different, but cakes, when you're putting something together, they tend to be more uniform, like because you would use stuff like this for wedding cakes or sweet 16s or something. So your size would be much more important at that point. Also, if you have any of those cake ball trays, you can turn that upside down to where the ball part is up, the ball part or the half hemisphere or the dome is facing upward. And you can work starting at one side of your tray. Start pressing your foil down and work your way across the tray so that you're able to bring your foil in and fill in all those areas. And then just take that off and then flip it over. You have a whole tray of these. So lots of different ways you can do this on the cheap. All right. And I just picked this because it's a super basic shape and because it has this indentation plunger in it, because some of them don't, but I want to show this to you. It's easier for beginners, I think, to have that because then it automatically gives you a place to add little candy beads and sugar beads and things like that. All right, so if you could, over on the right-hand side, oh, and I have a little roller because we're going to roll our fondant as thin as possible. So I have that ready to go, and I have my metal ball tool. But in previous kits, you have also received the plastic version of this, okay, which will also work. And if you're in the Under the Sea Spectacular online retreat, in that bag, if you bought those tools, there's a plastic one in there as well. This size would work as well, the light green one from that Fondant Tools packet that was $5 on Amazon. So, hello, Michelle. Hi, Ruben. Hi, Judy. You guys say hello over in the comments. Hi, Madeline. How are you guys doing tonight? I hope everyone is well. There's a lot of storms rolling through where several of you live. I saw on the weather just a little bit ago. So, hoping everyone is safe tonight. Hi, Michelle. So, make sure you say hi over in the comments. Now, as always, I'm going to hit you with this disclaimer. The way I'm going to show you to do this is not the only way to do it. So please don't leave my little tutorial tonight under the impression that this is the only way to do it. It's not. There's tons of ways to create these things, and artistic flair and artistic style all feed into those as well. And there's a lot of things we're not going to do. We're not going to go back and dry dust and finish final forming on the flower. We're going to do a very basic tutorial tonight where we're going to roll out the fondant. I'm going to show you how thin I try to get it. I'm going to show you how to cut it. I'm going to show you how to ripple or ruffle your floral edges and then how to pull it together. I'm going to be working in smaller sizes because I think more of the people that watch my free tutorials are cookie people. That's not to say everybody is and that we don't have a lot of people crossing over from cake and cookie and back and forth in the group. I just think for my purposes of tutorial tonight, we're going to focus on smaller sizes with cookies in mind. So a lot of things affect how we come at these tutorials and which parts we teach and what we don't. So if anybody that is a caker or a cupcake maker, you guys know that there's just tons of different ways to take these and adapt. So always try to approach these tutorials from the aspect of getting a new technique in your toolbox and then figuring out where to use that as you're creating other items. Okay. All right. So I'm going to start with how about we start with the dark pink so it'll show up really well on here. In person, it doesn't matter, but see how hard it's going to be a little harder to see. This color we probably won't use tonight because it's going to be hard for you to see it on here. And then this one, it's so hard. We might just do all dark flowers tonight. I do want to do a couple if you guys just bear with me while you can't see that well on the colors. I do want to do a few medium pinks because I want to show you how to marble some colors. And I want to show you how to layer them. So this is just wrapped in press and seal with the sticky part inward. Okay. So that it's not hard to get it out. And you know what I think? I want to see if I can zoom out a little more. Nope, that's in. Can we go out? Okay, that's as far as we can go out. I'm going to lift this a little bit. Just look away if you get seasick, okay? I don't have the second camera hooked up tonight. So I can lift that a little higher and it won't block my face, okay? All right. So if you were watching earlier today, hey, Mary Jane, I'm going to just pinch off a little bit at a time on this. It doesn't take too much to get started, okay? Let's close this so it stays soft and moist. And then I'm just going to work this. This was hot pink. It's a hot pink powder by the Sugar Art. So I'm just going to work it a little bit and get it moistened up. Hey, Kelly, how are you tonight? Thank you for watching. And I did notice hot pink is a master elite color, and typically master elite colors don't show up the same color in what you add them to as what they look like in the little jars until they've been water activated. And I did not water activate this. So this is Master Elite straight into fondant. And because it wasn't water activated first, for obvious reasons, I didn't want to introduce all that water to my fondant, but I wanted to try to get this color. So I experimented ahead of time to make sure it would work. but then there's always a risk of having little tiny dots of pigment, little tiny dots of color in there. So if you're going to make a whole bunch of something, you really got to make sure it's fully worked in your fondant. All right, so I'm just rolling it to heat it up. Oh, I really wish Lori was here. If Lori doesn't pop on soon, we're going to start discussing fondant on cookies. Hey, Carol, how are you doing? Carolyn is here. Hi. My friend Carol is also watching. We'll start discussing the things about her question this morning for when she catches the replay, okay? So I am just picking up and spinning it. I want to roll this as thin as possible. I find it makes a more delicate looking flower, and it also is less volume of fondant being added to whatever item that you're working on. Oh, can I please say a quick thank you to the people that have been helping and streaming YouTube on their computers, streaming my YouTube channel videos silently on their computers while they're working, because the hours have gone up by about 100 hours. So I know there's several of you that messaged me and said, okay, I'm doing this, and you've really been doing it. I can see the hours going up. So thank you for that, but let's not stop. We want to try to get our YouTube channel monetized by the end of the year, and we're very close. So please help out if you can. Just leave some videos running on silent. I mean, obviously, I want you to watch them all, but if you don't have time to watch them all, leave them running and help me get those hours up. All right, so I am rolling thin, thin, thin. But I don't want to be so heavy-handed in the rolling stage. Excuse me. I don't want to be so heavy-handed in the rolling stage that I make waves in my fondant. Okay, I want to keep that nice and light. I also want to have a thingamajiggy or a spatula, something super thin to lift, right? Just to come under here to pick this up and flip it. But now, can you see on camera? This camera's really good, so hopefully you can. Let's go in a little bit. Can you see how thin that is? That it's to the point where you can almost see through it. Okay, I'm going to go a little bit thinner. Like I want to be down in this level of thickness, okay? So I'm going to roll just a little bit more. And what I'm doing is rolling center out and then back so that I don't, I find that if I leave it in one direction and I don't rotate it, I do too much in one area. But you can see just by rolling it this way with my push and pull motion that the fondant is still expanding. And you saw what a small quantity of fondant that was. Hey, Camille, are you here? Let's see. Hold on one second. Let's see. Hi, Deborah. Thank you. All right. Mary Jean has a question. When you make modeling chocolate / fondant blend, do you color it any different than how you do for just fondant? A lot of when I color my fondant or my fondant modeling chocolate is driven by the actual project. So then I have to go find the product I need to color it. But I have a ton of the Sugar Art products, Elite Colors and Master Elite. Now, some of the Master Elite you can do, just like this, like hot pink. Other colors like emerald green, it doesn't look the same in the container. It would have to be water activated. But I tend to use those particular powders because they work in the chocolate or in fondant. So when I'm blending my fondant and modeling chocolate, that's usually my go-to. But again, lots of lines out there. Nothing wrong with the other products. It's just not something I have on hand. There's stuff specifically to color chocolate. If you want to do straight modeling chocolate, there's product out there for that because chocolate has a lot of fat. So typically, if you're doing straight chocolate, you want to do something different. And I try to not use gel colorings just because they're harder to work in. But the pasty part, the dried up part at the top of your lid typically will work. I try not to use it. I try to use the dry powders from the Sugar Art when I'm doing a blended piece. But if you're in a jam, sometimes you can make the other work. All right, so I just let it rest for a second. I'm going to give it one more roll. We're going to use this to lift it. And because I'm working on a cookie, I'm working with a very small piece of this. I don't need a big fondant sheeter, but can you guys see that you can start to see through this? It's so thin. I mean, it's getting paper thin. Okay, so we're going to start from here. All right, and let's get our little cutters over here. Now these have a plunger, and typically these cutters all have plungers in them. They just don't typically all have this area in the center that's going to make a little indentation. Does that make sense, Mary Jane? Also, for regular Cookie Snack Attacker fans, I try to use product that we've bought for other projects. So a lot of times when I come on Tutorial Tuesday, if I have to choose between something I have that I use at the bakery or things that I have here that I've used with you guys before, either in a class or a class kit or at a retreat, then if I'll pick the thing that I know you guys definitely have over something that I might use more in the bakery, right? Hope that makes sense too. So we're going to use this plunger and we're going to push straight down, and then we're just going to kind of shimmy it. I just give it a little, not a lot, because I don't want to warp the petals, but I want to make sure I'm all the way down. Before I lift it, I want to just give it a quick press with the plunger. Then I want to lift it. Okay. Now, in this case, it stayed down most of the time. And in a class, Mary Jane, I definitely would have you use something different if we were doing straight chocolate, for sure. But I tried to think ahead with what I have planned for you guys on Tutorial Tuesday and classes so that you're using product you've already ordered, so you're not ordering a ton of product every month. Now this one, excuse me, this one fell right out. So you can see I'm just lifting it off. And I want it to crust a little bit before I start working on it. So I'm going to just push it over to the side. Let's go ahead and do a couple. Now, typically these stick in here and I have to use the plunger. Just give it a little shimmy shake there. Typically I have to use that plunger to actually get it out. But these with that little shimmy shake, and this fondant is just, it's a couple days old now. Mary Jean. I try to keep in mind that, it's been a rough couple of years for everybody. And we just, as much as we want all of the things, we kind of have built up great kits over the last year and a half in Cookie Snack Attack. So if I have to choose, that's where I go first to what we already have. But you know me, I like to mad scientist experiment. So that doesn't mean if there's something new out there, I'm not going to get it and then say, grab this because we're going to be using it soon. I definitely don't want to lose my enabler status and title. Deborah, let's see what this says. Can you use the ball tool? Yeah, absolutely. You can use all your fondant tools when you're doing modeling chocolate, and you can use this ball tool. Now, I'm going to give you a disclaimer about straight modeling chocolate, though, right? You have to keep in mind where you live, your humidity, your altitude, all of that kind of stuff, because if you're somewhere where it's really hot, you may not be able to use modeling chocolate at all during the year, right? If there's any risk that what you're making it for is going to go on something that's going to go outdoors, you might not be able to use it at where you are. I have a good 4 or 5 months of the year that I can use a blend. It's rare that I go straight modeling chocolate. Let's see. Yeah, it is definitely. I agree with Mark. I agree with them. All right, so that's the largest size of this 4. And then we're going to go down and grab a few of these. And the reason we're going to do all of these sizes is because I'm going to show you how to nest them within each other to make some gorgeous flowers. Now, I'll show you, but really what you're going to have to do is go back and let all of these dry in these aluminum foil. Now, see how that normally sticks? That's normally what happens to me. And then I have to work on it like this, just fully depress the plunger. And then I'll use my thingamajiggy or a very soft brush that I use for painting, and then I'll just get the little pieces out. Normally they don't fall right out for me. Did I finish my whole disclaimer about using chocolate and you're going to have to test it in your area? I can't, I'm in Virginia, so I can't speak for how that works in Arizona or California, right? But there's people in our group that can. You can always ask questions. That one feels like it's in a little bit deep. I work that plunger a few times and see if I can get one of those petals loose. And then I'll use a brush to just pop that out. And I'm just making a bunch of these. Where I am tonight, I've got 47% humidity in my studio, so it's not crusting up too fast. So I'm just going to go ahead and pop out all my pieces before we get started with the ruffles. And I can't wait to see what you guys are going to do with this. I'm so excited. I have big plans for mixing some of the things that we've done recently, but I'm a little excited to see what you guys do, because usually when I give you a jumping off point, you come back with just these things I hadn't even thought of. So I like that it leads to other ideas. All right, Lavelle is asking about dipping the cutters in cornstarch. Absolutely, you can do that, Lavelle. I'm not doing it tonight because I don't want them to crust up. I don't want them to crust up too fast because we're doing a tutorial. But these have been used before and they were dusted in cornstarch. Allison, I know it got so humid outside. So our Lowe's delivery finally arrived. And I hate to tell you all this because, you know, they were 7 hours late. Not their fault. It was a mechanical issue, right? That no one did it on purpose. Nobody didn't just show up for work or something crazy like that, right? But they sent some of the wrong items. So it's going to affect tomorrow a little bit, but it's all right. I'll get everything done. I have a lot going on. We have a lot of projects going on at our house that I'm super excited about. I can't wait to show you some finished pictures. One of the things I missed so much about, now, did you see that? You see how I got that one out and it has no indentation? Okay. But you see these other little babies, they have the little indents. Okay. So it's important, if you want that indentation, that you make sure you depress the plunger while it's still on the work surface. Now I'm going to show you something else. This may not work for everybody, but it has worked for me in the past. I had to make a bunch of these little flowers way ahead of time, and I just was running out of space. These little holes are great because you can basically take a small toothpick if you're going to be using that center. Once you've ruffled them, you can put a whole bunch of them on a toothpick like this, right? And they'll stay where they are, so they'll stay separated. And then I use these. This is a little cake tip, I guess, for you, or cupcake topper tip. I use these. Well, if we can find them, we will use them. Let me give you that real quick. It slipped down behind here. I have styrofoam boards like this over in the studio at the store where I do cakes. And so I would just put a bunch on here to dry after I feather them. You see? And then I put the tip of the toothpick in the block. That way I can have hundreds in a very, very small area. Like I think I put 500 on a little 4-inch by 4-inch square the last time I had to make a bunch of these. So just a little trick if you're watching the video. There's all these things, you guys, that you don't catch if you don't watch the whole video, because I'll sandwich things in the middle of the video. Just when it comes to me to share something that could be handy for somebody, I try to drop it in. 106, Mary Jean. Oh my goodness. All right, so let's do one more this size, and then let's drop down and do the last of them in the baby size. Let's hit our little plunger. And I don't see Lori yet. Hey, Maggie, how are you tonight? I don't see Lori yet, but let's go ahead and talk about something that she asked earlier. Don't forget your plunger if you want that little hole. Okay, and then it should just pop out like that. Hello. Oh, Barbie, you like that idea? It's just great for space, especially if there's decorations you need to make way ahead of time and you're scheduling if you cookie for profit or cake for profit. You know, usually decorations are made well ahead of the actual cake being baked or being assembled. So when you work in a small kitchen, like my work area, even at my shop, it's small and you couldn't get more than one person in there. It's not a huge workspace, but it was all that was available when we came to Culpeper. Um, so we made it work and it worked very well. And you see how I didn't scrap the extra pieces because now I'm down to this tiny one and I can go back and hit all these areas. So no point in crushing it up as you go, because you can go back and use all these little bits so that they're all rolled out at the same thickness, right? That's the other key to this. We're doing all this at the same thickness. See what I can get out of these pieces and then we'll finish. I think we need, because I'm going to try to get two big ones out of down here. Then I'll put this extra fondant back in before we start rolling. Now, let me say this. If you're working in an area that's extremely dry, you may have already popped out too many of these to actually feather them out. So you're going to have to test this. I think I can get one more big one for sure. You're going to have to test this in your area and see how fast your fondant crust over, right? If you're working in a baking kitchen and you've got fans going and there's any kind of air going across these pieces, they may already be significantly crusting to where you're not going to be able to go back and feather these without them looking torn. So you got to test. And where I'm at, I checked earlier today and no problem. And you see my fondant is still soft, very pliable, not getting a crust or elephant skin just yet. So I'm going to put it back with the big ball of fondant and cover it up. And then I am also going to pull over some white or gold sugar beads. I'm just going to pull in something that's handy here. I'm not going to take the time to, obviously to let these dry overnight because we're doing a live tutorial, but you should make them up, let them dry curved. Then you can go back and do some dry dusting. We've done dry dusting so much in the past. I feel like you know what I'm talking about when I say to go back and add a little to these guys. You'll be okay with that. So I'm going to pull this in and I'll pop a couple up here. All right. And let's get our weighted ball tool. This is one of the metal ones. Okay. And you can use either side. I'm going to start with the large. Typically what I do though, let me take these off. I start in the center and I'm putting just enough pressure. Do you see how my flower is twirling? Can you guys see that? I don't know if you can see it. If you have that auto type on your screen, let me see. Maggie's asking. Until you can almost see through it, like it's really less than 1/8 of an inch. Just until you can almost see through it. So, oops, so I stopped too long. So you have to clean this off. So I work in that center area first. And it's going to heat up your fondant a little bit. And then what I like to do is I work on each of the petals. And I'm just kind of expanding it because I want a little bit larger petal. So you can see how I'm working in the center. Hopefully on your screens you can see that okay. I'm trying to stay zoomed in for you and still stay in a work area that I can work in. So I try to just roll it out just a little because I'm thinning it out. I want it to be thicker in the middle like an actual flower would be, a little thinner on the petals. All right, do you see? Okay, now typically at this point, this becomes too soft for me. So let me show you my cheater trick because I don't usually use the hard foam pad because it's just a little too hard. I still need a little buffer. So I'll grab a paper towel and I'll fold it in half and then I'll fold that in half again so I have a layer of 4. And these are the printed Bounty So I know not all paper towels are created equal. This is the printed Bounty. So normally I'll go to this and I'll put just a smidge of press and seal. And I don't have to do this all the time, guys. It just really depends on humidity, temperature, and how fast the stuff is crusting. But I'll put the sticky side down over my paper towel. And I'll just wrap this in some press and seal. Okay. And never throw these makeshift things out until the whole project is done, because you're going to get so aggravated. If you make all of this up a week or two ahead of time, all your pieces are perfect. You go to do the cake that day. And first of all, I hope this never, ever happens to you. But what if you drop the whole tray that your flowers are on and you're in a mad rush and you have to remake all your flowers? If you had to remake all of your extra little things that you're using to dry stuff on and stuff like this, it's just more time. So I never, hey Sharon, welcome. I never get rid of anything that I used while I'm working on a project until that project is out the door, delivered, set up at the place where it's going to be used. It just, having learned over time. So I'm going to pull this off over here. And I'm just going to work with my ball tool just around the edges. I'm making these itty bitty tiny circles. Can you see what's happening? Let's zoom in. This is fun. This is the fun part for me. I like when it changes at this stage. Can you see that? Okay, it's so bright in here tonight. All right, so I just work at the very, very edge. Just little tiny circles, and I start to get my ruffles. Can you see the ruffle? Turn that up so you can see it. So that's why I have to work on the paper towel pad, because I need something that's a little bit firmer. But again, I'm just not great on those foam pads. They work awesome for other people and people that make tons of flowers. I guess over time you just really get used to it. So I think that's great if you're one of those people that has mastered those. I'm not that great on them. I don't make flowers this way a lot anymore because of the time involved. It's just really hard to get people to understand how much time is in a project for them to actually pay you for how much time something like this takes, right? How long it actually takes to make these things. So it takes years to build up, usually, to where you have a clientele that is like, oh yeah, I know that took 20 hours. Or when you come back with the cake estimate and what they've asked for is like something that's going to take 30 hours to make all the pieces. And they're like, what? Because they don't know. They don't make cakes. So they don't know. They don't mean that they're not being offensive or anything. They just don't know. You don't know what you don't know when you don't do this. All right, let's see if we stayed in frame for most of that. It's so hard to see. So let me show you this compared to what we just started with. So do you see the very little plain, almost like, this would be like beginner level and you just stop here and then this is what we're coming to. We're going to start shaping. So if this was for an actual cake, right? Or I was going to layer this and make a multi-layer flower, which I'm going to make one for you. Okay. But I want to show you what you would do if you were going to let all these pieces dry and then combine them, and you could just put them together with water or edible glue. So I would come in here and I would just set this in my foil and pose my petals. Can you see that? So that those will dry overnight and that flower is going to have some shape. So why does that matter? Because there's so many different flowers you can make and you want everything to have dimension. In that set that I told you could get on Amazon, here's different petal shapes. Look at that to create a different flower. Look at this one. This is leaves to wrap your flower. You can make your leaves and it's already got the lines in it. Can you see that? It's got the lines in it to vein the leaf, so you don't have to vein the leaf by hand if you don't want to. Is there any more over here? I think I just have these out, but I have hundreds of those. So let's go back to this again. Let's go back to this size. Okay, everybody with me still? Hey, Cindy, how are you doing tonight? I hope the pup is doing better. Hey, Sally, you like this? I'm so glad. I'm so glad. I try to stick with just cookie stuff for you guys, but this is something that after we did the fondant molds on the peekaboo butterfly, And then we did the cupcake last week using the fondant mold. Someone said, hey, can we do, oh, Laura, when did you jump on? I just saw this. How are you? Hope you're well where you are. And Mary Jean, what does this say? Oh, I'm so glad. Yes, I try to help you guys out. Sorry, got distracted there. So we're going to work, it'll come to me in a minute. I'll come back to it. So working in that center area to just thin that out just a little bit. And you see how it starts cupping around the ball tool. Then I'm going to switch to the other side, and I'm just going to, now I'm going slow because you guys like to really watch all this detail. But if I was in the bakery and I had to do 100 of these, I would not be as careful as I'm being right now. I would wreck 10 or 20 of these if I had to make 100 or 200 of them for the sake of speed. This would be going lots faster. So I don't spend this kind of time on everything like this. All right. So I try to do everything real time for you, and I try to do it slow so you can see the actual steps. I don't like all the videos that are like, videos are, first of all, let's say this. Let's have this disclaimer and caveat so you guys understand this. Videos are made for many reasons. Some of people are content creators, and so they are creating videos for simply the purpose of gaining minutes to be monetized and reels to be monetized. So they can't show you everything. Okay. So, but I'm actually started this. I started it to actually show you guys tutorials beginning to end with all of the slow bits in place so that you didn't get frustrated at the end of a project, because I actually wanted more people to community. And it's very frustrating when you go, wait, I just did exactly what that person did and it didn't work. Well, it didn't work because they cut out 40 seconds of something unique that they did. So I'm not that person that leaves that out. If I left something out in a step on something, it's accidental, completely accidental, because I never edit these videos. Okay. So I'm just saying, you've got to start analyzing what you're looking at and use it for what it's meant for. Some things are meant for you to sit down and consume them like they're TV, right? They're just for you to watch. They weren't meant for you to follow and create a flower like this. Or maybe they were meant to attract you to somebody's site so you'll take a class from them. So they were marketing. I'm just saying there's lots of different reasons that something might be made. Oh, did you see that? That was perfect. That's what happens when you really when your pressure's right and your fondant's just right. Oops. Hold on. Let me show you. So when you get it started, but you have to move fast because once you heat the fondant up, it gets sticky. So here's another piece. Okay. Now let's pull a medium over here because this one we're going to put together. So this is the next size down. And then we have this size. And then we have this size. Okay. And I'm just letting you know ahead of time, we're going to form ours on a toothpick tonight, so I can put it in that block and let it dry. And I'll show you why I'm going to do that in a minute. Okay. All right. So again, well, it's a little bit smaller flower. So let's just start with the smaller ball. And you see that pressure just right to thin out that middle. And you can see, and then I'm pushing to the edges. I'm going to go a little bit faster since you saw the detail on the large one. I'm just going to show you, you can get rough with this. It doesn't have to take 10 million hours, but you know, typically when you're putting this much work into something, it's for a family member or a big cake job, right? So I hope you're not team no sleep doing this stuff for $50, because you're not making any money if you are. If you want to do that and that is your gift to society, then by all means do that. But I can tell you right now, you're not making any money if you're doing that, because I know how long this stuff takes. Now what I'm doing is just working. I'm trying to stay in frame. That's my main concern. And I'm working in small circles around the edge of my petals. If it looks like it's getting stuck, okay, then just use your thingamajiggy or a little spatula and pop it up off. Okay. Don't worry about it not staying in a perfect 5-petal shape. Do you see what I mean? How the petals get different? Just roll with the flow. It doesn't need to be perfect. Okay, let's pull this up. We're going to set it over here. leave it for a second. Let's come to our little one. Hey, Jen, how are you doing tonight? I hope I haven't missed saying hello to anybody. Hey, Grammy and kids, how are you? Hi, Kim. Hi, Elizabeth. Hi, Sharon. I hope everybody's all right. All right, so you get that first 3 or 4 little spins, okay, and then rolling out. Ah, see, I killed one. Do you see it? All right, so I will just scrap that one. We're going to pull another one in. So you have to figure out how your fondant is and how much you can push it. So typically, if I got to do a bunch of these, another one trashed it. Typically, if I have to do a bunch of these, I will intentionally wreck the first 3 or 4 that I'm doing before I ever try to get a good one, just to see what the elasticity is like on my fondant or my fondant and modeling chocolate. I'll wreck it on purpose. I'm having a lot of trouble when I hit petal 4. Like I get a little too on that. And it's harder when they get smaller. I need to switch to a smaller ball tool, but I don't know if I pulled one. So we'll look in that set from Amazon that we're going to use in the Under the Sea Spectacular Retreat. By the way, there's 3 seats left. I hope you guys will get in on that because it's going to be so much fun. I have not taught what we're doing in that retreat. I have not taught you guys in class. Nothing even close to what we're going to do in that retreat. And that's going to be awesome because when that project is done, you're going to have stuff, a technique you can use on cookies or on cupcakes or on cake. All right, so I'm going to go in because for this last one, do you see this little tiny ball? I'm going to pull this from my other fondant set. So I'll start here and just in the middle, just try to get a couple spins to thin it out a little bit more. Okay. And then I'm going to use the smaller ball because I think the ripping is because I'm using too big of a ball and it's too heavy for this little delicate flower here. All right, so now I'm going to try to anchor it. And if you're more comfortable, you can anchor with your thingamajiggy. I like to anchor with my hand because I can feel it. I feel like I have more discerning touch with whether it's going to rip or tear. And now what I want to do, this is the inside part. So I just really need it thin. I don't have to do that little spinning action. I just need it as thin as possible so it's papery thin. And again, I'm about to show you a way to do this, that if I were making this particular flower, I would do it. But there are hundreds of ways to do what I'm about to show you. Okay? All right, now, if I was doing a bunch of these, thingamajiggy bot, the name of this thing. You know what I have such a hard time with, Sally, with this in particular, is that the owner of the company, it's Creative Cookier, and she makes Jeannie's Dream meringue powder, like Jeannie, like rub the bottle. That's the name of the company. But her name is Jenny, like gin and tonic, gin. I know I have a weird accent, but it's like that pronunciation. So it's Jenny from Jeannie's Dream, and it's a total tongue twister for me. Then you throw in thingamajiggy, right? We can really get messed up. All right, so we're going to start forming our flower. If I was doing a bunch of these, I would be putting these out and letting them dry because you're going to get more separation between each of the layers of petals when you go to put it together. But for the purposes of tonight's video, we're going to assemble this on a toothpick. So I'm going back to my largest piece. I'm just going to put it on there. I'm going to come down the toothpick just a little bit. I don't want to come down a lot. Can you see that? It's not very much at all. I'm going to take that second one down. I'm going to feed it in through where the hole is, and I'm going to rotate it so that the petals are offset from the petal that's underneath it. And I do want them to touch. Okay, you see how the petals are offset? Can you guys see that, or do I need to zoom in? Let me know before I go too far. Oh yeah, Mary Jean, after the butterfly cookie, someone asked if they didn't want to buy a bunch of fondant molds or they didn't like fondant molds, how could they do something similar? So it'll take you a little bit longer, but this is how you would do it. Looking good? Okay. So then let's pick up the next size down. These are graduated sizes, and we want to offset so that our petals are covering where those other petals come together. Okay. You see? Good so far? Then we're going to use our last petal. If you're down to this part and your hands are just not cooperating, get a pair of tweezers. It'll get the job done. I'm going to use a soft paintbrush and just continue to push it down. And then I'm going to get it set in the offset areas and push it down a little bit more. Now, this, just like this, if you let it dry and put a seed pearl in here, this is a beautiful flower for a cookie because, watch this. You see how thin that is? And you know how much fondant molds put on the cookies, right? So you can see this would be gorgeous on a cookie just like this, right? Put a seed pearl in there. Now, I'm going to try this and hope it works. Sometimes it works for me. Sometimes it doesn't. We're going to see what happens. We're going to do two. Well, no, we're just going to do this one tonight. So hopefully this will work. But I'm going to pull out one of the little 4 mil. These are just white Wilton pearls. Okay. I'm going to pull that out. No, I'm not going to do it. Here's why I'm not going to do it. Because I don't have 2 of these made up. And we've already been on 53 minutes. So I don't want to keep you another hour while I make a separate set and you guys watch. So what I'm going to do is hold my brush here. Okay. And I'll explain to you. So I'm just pinching it underneath. Okay. And I'm going to start using my hands to pinch it together. Because if I don't want the beads, I don't have to use them. Then I'm going to pull it off. In this case, my fondant is working where I can separate these petals. All right, so I'm just going to form them. See how they're holding their shape? So I'm going to form them, and I'm going to drop this one in one of those cups because it's going to dry beautiful. And I'll zoom in so you can see all the detail work we just got. Now, don't get stuck making something one certain way, okay? Because if you pull this flower and you intended to put a pearl in it, but you see how beautiful all that little detail work is, don't force it. Just go with what came out and then go back and make the one you have to make because you can still use this. But look at that. Isn't that beautiful? That all that little petal work. Look. And it's delicate. Let me pull this up just a little bit. Now I'm going to let this form in a cup because I want it to have that beautiful clustered look. And you're only going to get that, you guys, if you do it with the graduated fondant cutters and plungers. That's the first thing. Now, why is this useful? There's a lot of new people in Cookie Snack Attack, and you have a lot of trouble piping flowers right out of the gate with royal icing. But look at this beautiful flower. You can pipe a flower very similar to this with one of the little half moon. It's a very thin opening and it's a half moon shape. You can pipe a flower very similar to this, but it would be quite a while with working with getting your royal icing consistencies proper in order to be able to do that. And look at this. And it's not a ton of fondant. And you've got nice edging in here. So imagine this completely dry. Very delicate though, so be careful if you do it, okay? Imagine this tomorrow completely dry. I can pick it up and I'm still holding this stem that's under the bottom. So I have something to hold on to. I don't want to take that off tonight. I'm going to hang on to that. And then imagine putting some sterling pearl, a little bit of sterling pearl on here, or a little bit of diamond dust. Or let's say you come back tomorrow and you're like, oh, I really like it, but I want to try a pearl in it because they're to match a baby shower invitation. Look at what that does to it, right? So this is just your base and it looks this good, right? So don't be hard on yourselves. I personally love making a whole bunch of these, even if I don't have a project that they're for, because I find them very relaxing. But I understand that not all people feel that way. So I get it. Okay. So let's just take another quick look at how delicate that is. Let it dry overnight and what we'll be able to do tomorrow. And then I'm going to do a few more. I'll end the video in just a few minutes after I answer these questions. I'm going to do a few more tonight. So when I put the picture up tomorrow, you'll be able to see some different ones. But these make a gorgeous flower. These 5 petal with the heart shape, these make beautiful flowers because the cut is much deeper. So the petals are separate. So you can almost layer them as you put them together. Like you can interlace the petals, like a petal here, then this petal here. So almost like a plumeria would be, right? And then this you can use to make a flower. This makes beautiful hydrangeas, or you can use this, do it in a couple different colors of green, do some dry dusting. This makes a beautiful leaf that would cup up around a flower, and then using your toothpick for that would come in handy. Also, don't forget, if you've got your styrofoam handy, you can assemble these on the styrofoam, and then just put the end of your toothpick down in here, and you can let them dry on here. If you want to use these little flat ones for something, like maybe you're doing a fancy Nancy cake, and that little character, these are the flowers, or that Cinco, these are the exact flowers. So you just make them flat. You don't have to do anything else to them. So if you need to dry a whole bunch, watch earlier in the video for how to layer those. Yeah, I need bling. So I'm going to be dry dusting. I'm going to put some sterling pearl. I'm going to hit it with a little diamond dust, and it's probably getting a pearl too. And that pearl is probably going to get set in there with just some basic edible glue. So, we got to do all of that. But sometimes you're going to run across a customer who is going to say to you, they're going to say to you, I don't want glitter. I don't like glitter. I don't want shine. I don't want sparkle. You're going to want to send them to a therapist, but just smile and make their cake the way they want it. Please don't give them a hard time, because not everybody needs all of this, right? I love it. I love doing all this on these pieces, but some people are not going to be as happy about it as you are, right? So not everyone has to agree, just like we don't all have to create the same way. All right, let's go back up. Hey, Sally, well, you're here. I didn't see you jump on, hon. Hold on just a second. And then I want to have one final discussion with you while I just work on a few of these pieces. You can stay for this part. It's going to be up to you guys, but let's go back up through here. Let's see. Yes. Absolutely. Mary Jean, thank you. Yeah, spaghetti. Spaghetti's a good way to do it too. You're holding your breath. Were you really, Sally? It's really a lot of fun. I hope you're going to try it. And I will put a link up for you, because there's one packet that's got like 8 different types of cutters, and then 3 or 4 graduated sizes of each cutter all together, really cheap. So I'll put that up for you the last time I ordered. I'm so glad you like this. Thank you, Barbie. Thank you, Sally. Thank you, Marine. It's fun to show you guys these new tricks, because I know you're cooking. What do they say? Cooking with gas. I know your brains are just like thinking things. Now let's see about this. Yes, you get dimension for sure. So at least you've gone 2D for sure, right? Sally, I think, yes, I'm all in. We need bling, pearl, all of it. I will link that for you. Thank you so much, Susan. Appreciate that. Yes, more bling, the better. We probably should have a t-shirt that says that. Does someone have we need a t-shirt that says the more cookie bling, the better. Yes, Sally, pull them out. I will tell you this, though. Don't try to do what I just did if your fondant is too thick. So if you're going to pull them out and practice, and Sally, I actually think you'll love them. I think you'll have a lot of fun with this. But the thinner, the better. And it's hard to start out working thin right away. So be prepared to play a little bit. I will also tell you, since you have grandkids, they love this. So let them play in fondant instead of Play-Doh, so that your tools don't get cross-used. But little kids love doing these cutouts. They like rolling this. Like, this is a perfect thing if you want to do it with your own grandkids. They'll have a blast with you. What else? Okay, so let's talk about this. I think someone asked earlier, I think it was Lori, but I haven't seen her log on yet. Hey, Connie, how are you? So let's talk about this really quick. You guys can pop off the video as far as the tutorial part is concerned, because I'm just going to sit here and look down and make petals while I talk for a minute, but I do want to address this. So the question, I believe, was, do people really eat cookies with that much fondant on them? And I think we have to fall back to this. Everything is made for different reasons. If you're using a cookie as a base to make a cake topper for a wedding or a quinceanera or a 50th anniversary, like, no one's going to eat that. So straight fondant is the way to go because it's much more temperature resistant. You can do a lot more detail work with it, right? But if you're making these cookies, first of all, I worry about you all if you're trying to make these feature cookies as a whole set. Feature cookies are meant to be literally that, a feature cookie. So one or two in a dozen, something to draw attention to your cookie platter and to get to show your cookie art off a little bit, but they're not meant to be all the cookies in the set. Let's see. I don't know. Am I frozen up? Well, on my phone, it's moving, but on here, let me see what's happening. Can you guys hear me? I'll just keep talking because the screen, I can't tell if you can see what I'm doing or not. Can you just tell me if you can hear me? If you can hear me, I'll keep talking. You can hear me. Okay, so let me just talk and maybe the screen will unfreeze. We are having storms, so it's possible I'm having a little bit of issue. It might not be you, Robin. It might be me because my screen has just now started moving again. Okay, so let me go back to that. You have to think thoroughly through what you're making it for. And I hope you guys are not killing yourselves making these super fancy, highly decorative cookies for the same price you make normal cookies for, because then you're not making any money. However, caveat, if it's your family, if it's your kid, if it's your godchild, whatever, then you don't care about stuff like that. You're going to make whatever you're going to make. But if you're cooking for profit or cooking for volume, feature cookies are intended to be something to draw attention to the cookie area, but they're not meant to be the cookie that people are scarfing down, right? Which is why when I do classes, I always try to teach you a lot of techniques, and we do a lot of cookies that are heavily detailed, and we use fondant or fondant and modeling chocolate or straight modeling chocolate if possible, depending on what time of year it is and where you live. You have to factor all of those things in. Now, straight modeling chocolate, yeah, that's a candy bar on a cookie and everybody's going to go crazy. Now, guys, I'm going to try something. I'm going to go out and come back to the streams. I'm not going to end the broadcast. I'm just going to go out and come back and see if that unfreezes it. If I disappear, then on another way, but just try to stay here, okay? Because it's totally frozen on my end. Is it still frozen? It looks still frozen. Okay, so I'll try to wrap this up because I'm just making little flower petals here. So you're not missing anything. If you watched the video earlier, we're just having a discussion about a question from this morning. So cookies made to be cake toppers, cookies made to be added on to cakes. It just depends on your purpose. So it's hard for me to just give you a generic answer and say, people are going to peel that off or they're not going to eat that, because some people really like the taste of homemade fondant. Okay, they do. They just really enjoy that. And Allison makes some wonderful tasting homemade fondant. So yeah, I'd totally eat that. But if I just wanted to sit down with a box of generic fondant and make decorations, people don't normally, stuff made out of gum paste and fondant, they don't normally sit down and eat that. Plus, typically on cakes and wedding cakes, that stuff has a lot of floral wire and stuff assembling it. So the part that touches the cake is edible and everything, but you don't really want to sit down and eat that because it's got wire holding it together. It's got floral tape in there. It's not meant for that. So I think a lot of times we get a little narrow-minded about, maybe about what we're going to use something for. And we go, oh, I don't need to learn that skill because no one's going to eat all that. But that's not why I'm teaching it to you. Okay. Allison, your homemade fondant that you brought us to retreat is absolutely outstanding. It is. I would sit down and just eat that like candy because it was like having taffy, like fresh taffy. It was wonderful. Okay. So I'm just saying, expand your horizon, learn a skill for your toolbox, understand that everything is not to be used all the time for the same purpose. And you'll see what I mean the longer you're in this. The longer you're in it, it just becomes like, okay, I know when someone asks for something completely off the wall, you're like, wait. Normally, I would say, no, I can't do that. But I bet if I combine X, Y, and Z, I bet I can make that work for them. Okay. So just don't be don't be pigeonholed in what you're doing. Okay. Always be learning, always be looking for a different way to apply something. Just, use your best judgment and try not to be, this is probably not the exact right word for this, but try not to be judgmental about. Pigeonholed is probably a better word. First of all, don't you get pigeonholed as a designer or a creator because it stifles your creativity. But also, don't get pigeonholed in how you look at things. Like, this technique can only be used for this. Because I can tell you right now, there's a ton of cake people out there that cookie people that were cake people, and they bring their cake background rather to the cookie world and are adapting things constantly. And then cookiers are looking at stuff and taking cookie techniques and adapting it for cakes and cupcake toppers. So just don't miss out. You're going to miss out if you look at things too narrowly. So always be just trying to gain skills for your toolbox, which is why I like to get those cookie snack attack cards for you guys, because always it's kind of like in the middle of the night, I wake up and I'm like, oh, wait, we did that on this cookie. And then I'll go pull that and I actually go back and look at what I used it for, because oftentimes I'll wake up with like a project in my head or something I want to create. And then a couple nights later, I'll wake up and be like, my brain has worked it out, basically, is what has happened. And I'll remember where we applied a technique, and my brain will be like, you can use that technique to do this thing you want to do, right, on this 3D project, or to make this 2D, or you can create that cookie that so-and-so wants if you use this cake technique to do it. So anyway, that's why I think, I guess I'm old school in that it's more about technique sometimes than the actual designs, right? Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. Purchase the flowered canvas candy and it's wonderful. Oh yeah, the little candies she made, like she gave samples of those out at CookieCon. Those were great. They were really great. Yes. Yep, have them in the toolbox, Allison, because that's the way to roll. I sure wish you guys could see what I was doing, because I just did 16 petals. I have no idea why this is frozen, but leaving the stream and coming back didn't help. I'm going to try it one more time because I have full internet bars again. So let's just see. And I might. And then I'd like to show, oh, no, brought the camera back, but it didn't change that. Let me go over here and see if I can change this. If I can pull it back up. I have to leave the streaming program and go to a side program and let it rethink the camera. It has to recognize it, I guess. All right, I'm going to turn it off. And then we're going to come back. I just don't think it can see it right now. I think when I lost it earlier, it just can't. It can't see it. Okay, hold on. I'm going to try one more thing, because I want to show you all these petals I just made. I don't even know where that, can you see that camera? I don't know if you guys can see that. Let's see if it'll come back to this one. Yeah, you can see that. Oh, there we go. Okay, we're back. Had to take it off the camera and back. So what were you looking at? Oh, you're looking at my stash of fondant and my cutter from Priscilla. That's what was up there. So I'm just rolling these out and getting them as paper thin as I can get them. And then I'm going to put them together and make 3 or 4. So it just, just try to be flexible. And don't be in someone else's class and say that's not how Amy taught us to do this. Please don't do that, because people will come for me. They'll come for me. I'll get messages. People are not always as well. Just don't do it. Just don't do it, because they'll come for me. That's all I can tell you. I'm going to switch to the smaller ball on this one. I find it so hard to work on these small ones, you guys. I'm just warning you. They really I really have to be careful with them. Plus I've worked in this one area so much that my paper towel's flat, and that's part of the problem. Are you guys laughing with me? You know I'm right. People get upset and then they think their judgment is being questioned, and I'm not that person. That's not why I do things. I just really like mad scientist experimenting, and I like trying to find new ways to apply an existing technique, right? Or to create something totally new. All right, now you see this? I just keep ripping my little ones because they're real crusted. So at this point, do you see what I've done? I've adapted to the fact that my fondant is crusted over, and so I'm just dabbing this up and down to get my thinness. I can't roll it because rolling is ripping right now. All right, but it's still coming out nice. You'll see what I mean. The more you play with this, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. See how small that is, how it started out and became that? Even though we rolled it paper thin, you really want as thin as possible. The thinner you can learn to work with this, the better it looks. And don't worry if they get curvy on you. You want them to get curvy. They're supposed to look like little tight petals. We're going to put another one together on a toothpick just for those of you that hung around with me. Does anybody have any questions that's still here with me now? So time and purpose, analyze what you're using it for, figure out what medium is going to work best for you, that type stuff, okay? And don't get locked into there's only one way. There's always another way. If you can't get around the barn or over the barn, go under the barn. You understand? You'll figure it out. You'll figure it out as you continue to improve. The more realistic the petals look. I'm so excited about something that I'm working on that I'm going to submit for CookieCon. And I hope you guys are too when you finally get to see it, but I'm not sharing any of it early. Look at that. Isn't that pretty? Now, if I wanted to stop right here, look how pretty this would be. Just like this. And it's still, I'm just going to give it a little, watch what I do with the dull end of my toothpick. I'm going to squish it together. Look at how pretty that is. Watch this. Little pearl. Push the pearl in there. It holds the whole flower together, and the petals start cupping upward like it's about to rain. You ever seen the leaves do that? And then look. Let's zoom in on this so you can see it. So isn't that beautiful? See all that detail work? I don't know if you can really see it as good as I can, but let me try to tip it sideways so you can see all the detail that you get. Right? But it's still paper thin. It would not bother anyone to eat that. That's such a small amount. No one would fuss about that. Okay? So, do you see what I mean about this being relaxing, though? I could sit here and just make tons of these. It's 4 sets of petals, 4 layers of a 5 petal cutter in graduated sizes. And now I'm just going to play with this because it is crusting up, so it'll pretty much stay. But look how delicate that is. Isn't that pretty? And don't worry. And look, this one's already crusted, the one we put in there to curve. Look at how this one already curved up. It's staying. It's not losing. So we're going to use this one. And I'm going to put this in here using my thingamajiggy. The other thing is, you guys, the other secret to working with these delicate little flowers like this, don't reach in there and pick them up with your hand. Get a thingamajiggy or a spatula or something, because our hands, when we're working with something this delicate, our hands are just like taking a sledgehammer to a delicate little flower like this. All right, so let's put another one together using this one that's partially crusted. I hope to see a lot of the skills that we've learned in the last year in your CookieCon and your Julia Usher entries. I hope to see a lot of stuff that you learned in Cookie Snack Attack in your projects, because that will make me feel really good as a teacher that you guys are getting a lot out of class and you're still enjoying what we're teaching and that it's helping you. Mary Jean, is it better to put the layers together then sit in a cup to shape? Well, that is one of those things, and I'm sorry, I wish there was a hard and fast yes or no answer, but it's one of those things that it's going to depend on the humidity in your work area and what kind of flour you're trying to make. So if I were making, I needed to make really cupped flours, I would be letting all of these in between sizes dry overnight. Like if I wanted them to really stand out off a cake, like have that pop off a cake, I would not be putting them together like this. But I'm making these to use on a cookie. So lower profile is great. And then also, you guys, don't forget, this is beautiful. But if you have to bag your cookies, this is not for that. Doing these cannot be bagged. These petals will break. So this is not for that. So we're back to, what are you using it for? Is it a feature cookie? Is it going on a cake as a cake topper? Did you bake it on a stick to use like we did in Tiki Hot? You're like, what are you using it for? And then if you're using them on a cake and you let them dry, then you can assemble them right on the cake. So that, because you're not going to make them this flat, you're just going to start layering them inside of each other. And you just use tweezers to do it, in edible glue or a little bit of water. I'm talking tiniest bit of water. Am I still where you can see me? So like this one, I'm having to play with these petals a little bit because you see how you can see that it's one whole piece. Like I didn't get it centered properly. So now I'm just squishing it up a little bit so that you can't see that. But I'm just doing it with a toothpick, and then I'm going to let this dry. And we'll have another one for tomorrow. Just slipping it off my hand and into this little cup. We'll let it go. Now, Mary Jean, some of them will break. They're going to break when you're assembling them, no matter what you do. So just make extra. It's really better just to make extra so you're prepared. I think this one is a little bit bigger, so I'm going to put it on the bottom. But this is a handy starting place for people who want to have floral accents, but they're not good at piping or doing royal icing transfers just yet. Everybody has a different growth rate, and you have to make room for everybody if you want to not miss out on all the good stuff. All right. See how I just pinched that when I took it off? And remember, if you make a whole bunch of extra, this is good. You can put these on like last minute cupcakes or something like that. So use what you need for your project. And if you made a bunch of extra, don't throw everything at the project. Stop when it looks nice, right? You don't want to keep going just because you have the extra. Do you understand what I'm saying? Hope that makes sense. Sometimes you can make a cake look very gaudy. Sometimes simpler is better. Something very detailed like this, but only a few of it, has a lot more impact than a simpler flower done by the hundreds, right? I'm going to pop a pearl in this one and let it dry. I want to see if it, just make sure this time of year, because it's something else I have coming up in a week. I want to make sure that this is going to dry and stay in there. So I'll do a test tonight. And I'm pulling up my fondant to the little pearl. All right. So I hope that answers the questions from earlier today. And I hope this was a fun, even though we didn't put it on an actual cookie, I'll be putting it on a cookie, so you'll see it again. But I hope this was useful for everybody tonight. I wish I could remember who asked me specifically. There was like 3 of you that messaged me and said, I don't want us collecting fondant molds because I'll need every single one of them if I start. So can you show me how to do just something like this I can do ahead of time? Can you show me how to do something I can do a bunch of ahead of time and still get that look that you're going for, like on the peekaboo butterfly? Show me how to do that using just stuff I already have for fondant. So hopefully, so these are the ones we made tonight, just so you can see them one more time. I'm going to zoom in. I'll show you all 4 of them, and you'll see them again soon. You're going to see them again on a project. Maybe not all of them, but at least 2 of them. You can see, okay? So when you see them, you'll go, oh, I know where those came from. Yeah, okay, and our little delicate, and look at this. I just love this. So pretty. All right. All right, so I hope you guys had a wonderful night. Let's put a few more comments up. And you're welcome, Robin. You're very welcome, Mary Jean. You too, Barbie. I'm so glad you liked this. All right, so I'm going to sign off for the night. But if you guys have any questions, you can always message me. I'm happy to help. And if there's something that you want to see on Tutorial Tuesday, the next 3 to 4 weeks is a good time to ask me to show you things, because I'll be traveling at the end of the month for the cookie retreat. I'll be in Florida with my mom at the time that's going on. So I can do something coastal. I was thinking to do something coastal that week because I'll have all my colors with me for that. And even though we have class that day, we have class on Tuesday starting at noon, I'm probably going to go on early. I'll probably go early and do the intro for what we're going to do that night. And we'll still have Tutorial Tuesday because my mom wants to watch all this. She'll be with me and she wants to see all this stuff. So that we do. So we'll still have it. I'll just probably go on earlier because our class will be starting at noon. Okay. All right. Well, I enjoyed my time as always with you all this evening. Thank you for everybody who's been sending stars. We have just a little bit further to go to finish paying for the new camera. And then we're going to start on one other upgrade that's really necessary to keep the videos from freezing and having the connectivity with the Wi-Fi. Something else that I can do that will improve that. So we always want to keep improving. So when you're going back to watch these videos, that they're getting better and better each time. Okay. All right. Message me if you have questions. Look forward to seeing you guys later in the week. Don't forget to sign up for class. Sunny Summer Days is this Saturday. Hope to see a bunch of you there. Very easy shapes. You still have plenty of time to jump in and get ready. And if you're in that class, watch for a video tomorrow where I'm going to come on and show you how to prep certain shapes using the basic cutters. Okay. All right, guys, be sweet.